My name is Frosty Merriott. We've lived in Bella Vista since last summer on Lake Ann. My wife and I, 40 years, have moved there, and our daughter is here as well. She's 20 minutes down the road, and that was a big reason we moved here.
What motivated you to run for city council?
You know, I ran for city council because I have this mantra. I really want to make a difference in the world and in where I live, if it's at all possible. I was on town council in Carbondale, Colorado for 10 years, from 2008 to 2018, and elected to term limited there, and was able to really make a difference in our city and the way it grew. Carbondale is about half the size of Bella Vista, but we were facing some of the same issues that Bella Vista is now facing. So I think I have the experience to help with our growth and our decisions we make on growth, and I'd like to be a part of that to make a difference and give back to the community I live in.
What is your stance on raising taxes or fees to fund city projects? Under what circumstances, if any, would you consider this option?
As a CPA, I think about taxes a little bit different probably than some people, because that's what I deal in with all the time. So taxes don't scare me if it's for a good cause. I don't have any issues with taxes. I mean, it's the price we pay for a stable society and government locally, statewide, nationally. It's just the price you pay. So I'm open to taxation. I think it's got to be responsible. I think that's what I think I bring to the council, was my experience for responsible budgeting and spending. And so I don't start off saying I hate taxes, and that's not going to work. I listen to the open mind with what they're being proposed for.
What do you think is the number one issue facing Bella Vista as a community, and how will you impact it if elected?
I think the maintaining a quality of life, to me, is primary. It's the number one for me. Is what we're doing, and so I want to have a part in that, because now we've got our daughter married, and in a few years they're going to have grandchildren, and that's one of the things. We're close to them, and that's one of the goals we had. Carly wanted to be close to our baby, so when they had babies, she'd be here, and so we want a quality of life for those kids, and that's going to be quality of life to me is managing your growth, so you keep your small town quality as much as you can, and you keep the effects of unbridled growth. We all know traffic congestion, wildlife fragmentation, air, water, and noise pollution. All of that has got to be done smartly, or we will lose our quality of life, and we'll turn around 10 years from now and say, what the heck happened?
What is the biggest professional or personal accomplishment you think demonstrates your ability to lead, and why?
Started out in Carbondale when I first moved there and volunteered for the town environmental board. It was a volunteer, and you had to be approved by the town council. We had a tree board that looked at development, making sure we had street trees we wanted to see. We had certain landscaping to adhere to. The town tree board would look at that. Environmental board would also look at it. So I served on those. I served on the Planning and Zoning Commission for 3 years before I ran for office. And then after I term limited, I served on the Carbondale Chamber Executive Board for 5 years until we left Carbondale. So all of that, to me, is something I've done that prepares me to jump in and hit the ground running with town council here. Some of the things we did on town council in Carbondale, we were the first town on the West Slope being everything west of Denver in Colorado. We were the first town on the West Slope to ban plastic bags in 2010. We phased them out, so it gave the grocery stores time to use their inventory, and then phased out plastic bags. It's interesting now that we have a great recycling facility, but one of the things they don't take is plastic bags. So what are we doing getting all this plastic that can't be recycled? So that was a big deal. We were the first town on the West Slope to install commercial green building codes, residential green building codes. So that that was all it was involved in. And something that, maybe I hope a lighter note, we were also the first town on the West Slope to write rules and regulations on the use of recreational marijuana. When it got passed in Colorado, we actually had the first recreation store in the state. All the towns copied our regs to go forward. So we made some pretty big decisions, and I think we were at a pivotal point. I think Bella Vista is at that same pivotal point, and so it's got to be careful with how we do our growth going forward.
With the low turnout at city council meetings, do you believe there are underrepresented groups in Bella Vista? If so, how will you ensure their voices are heard and considered in your decision-making process?
As you know, was at a town council meeting. I was actually a little surprised that there weren't more people there feeling like they were involved. And I think that's one of the ways you get those people involved is you give them a way to serve the community. We met once a month, and we can now you can even meet by Zoom, so it's not a big deal. But if you have 6 or 8 people that are interested in bikes and pedestrians, we had a bikes and pedestrian committee, we had a recreational committee, we had the tree committee, we had the environmental committee. That gives you 40 people involved in town government that wouldn't be otherwise, and we'll get them to those meetings because they'll feel like they've got a stake in those meetings. I think it's really important to get your community volunteering and involved in your decision-making process.
How do you view the balance between maintaining Bella Vista's character and accommodating new developments?
That's tough, and when we went through it in Carbondale, Colorado as well, and you've got to decide your priorities. And the first priority you got to come up with is, okay, what's most important to us? Our quality of life and that we have now, our development. And you have to have some development, but you have to really be careful with it, lest you fall prey to the cumulative effects of it, and turn around and say, what the heck happens? But you've got to really prioritize. And again, I think this helps with committees, getting other citizens involved, having town hall meetings about it. We had an economic roadmap group that met for a year that planned out with a representative from town government, the citizenry, all the different boards and companies in town. Our town manager ran it, and there's about 25 of us, and we mapped out our economic roadmap, knowing that it was going to affect not only our economic roadmap group, but lots of people move into town, and how do we make sure we keep our quality of life.
Bella Vista has no official motto. What do you think that motto should be, and why?
I have not thought about that. I've only thought about the context of, do we have a town mission statement? But those kind of go together a little bit. But for me, Carly and I used to come to Hot Springs and visit. In fact, my mom and dad honeymooned in Hot Springs a long time ago. But we canoed on the Buffalo. We camped out, and so we loved the outdoors feeling of Arkansas, Northwest Arkansas, and I love this area now. The clean water, the clean air, and the people are really friendly. And I would have to think about that, but I don't have one off the top of my head, but I'll tell you what, I could come up with one if I worked on it. And we may want to we may want to start our committees with one of those and have, hey, we want some volunteers to decide what the town motto is going to be. Who wants to decide? Who wants to be in on that? Let's do it.
Do you think the Blue Crane acquisition will be good for Bella Vistans?
I think it's too early right now to know whether or not it's going to be good or bad. I think things like this, you have to look at it as an opportunity, though. It's definitely a big opportunity for Bella Vista, and to map out where we want to go with our town now that we're, again, at this pivotal point of, okay, are we going to have smart growth where we still have clean air and clean water and recreation that can't be beat, hiking and biking? Are we still going to have that? And I think the opportunity is that Blue Crane has the backing to be able to do whatever we set our goals to do. And so I think it's just a great opportunity for us to really make a difference in how Bella Vista moves into the future.
What is your position on short-term rentals?
Interestingly enough, the short-term rental issue was just coming up in 2018 in Carbondale when I was at Term Limited. And what we ended up doing was I know I hate to say this in a way because people don't like taxes and regulation, but you have to tax it and you have to regulate it, and you got to cap the number of them. And it's not necessarily a bad thing at all to have these short-term rentals, but we all know that what short-term rentals, if it were long-term rentals, it would be less expensive on housing. It sometimes don't have anything for rent here. So it's something when we decide how to do this, how we're going to deal with it, that's something you really have to look at, because it does drive rent prices and it does drive housing costs. So I don't have anything. I've stayed in a bunch of BRBOs. And in fact, we stayed in one for 4 weeks just now where we had in our kitchen remodel. So we were glad to have it. It was great to have that. And we need it for one of the legs of our economy, which is tourism. So there's plenty of arguments for having it, but I do think you have to regulate it and tax it and cap it.
Are there any other initiatives you'd like to bring to Bella Vista?
I think we need to move away from burning leaves in the fall. Coming from Colorado, where we were in a drought, and I've seen too many fires start by controlled burns. And when we first moved here last summer, Carly raced in the house and said, "What's on fire? What's on fire?" And I said, I don't know. And we looked off the back porch, and there was head-high flames in the backyard of the neighbor's backyard. And I said, "What the heck?" And I called 911, and they said, "Don't worry about it. They're just burning leaves." And I thought, what? We're burning leaves? And there was supposed to be somebody out there. There wasn't. They were supposed to be out by dark. It wasn't. It had been dry. So we've got to incentivize the composting. We should be composting instead of burning. It might take a year or two to phase it in, but we really move in that direction, because people with breathing problems, asthma and sinus issues, that really affects their quality of life. It affects anybody's quality of life that wants to go fishing or bike riding or just sit out and look at our vistas. So that's one thing I'd like to see us to look into. I'd also like to see us, when I called on the speeding issue on Lancashire, and I talked to the officer, he told me he only had 2 highway radar machines, and for all the miles of road we have, he had a several week waiting period to get that flashing sign out, and we shouldn't have. It should be a week at the most, and we need to buy some more signs because that's where we found we got the most results in Carbondale, was with those flashing signs saying it's 35, you're speeding, it's flashing at you. That is very helpful, and we need a sign, one that says has the verbiage on it, so if there's a flooded street out or there's a wildlife crossing in a certain area, you can put it up on the side of the road and say, "Caution, water over the road, caution, wildlife crossing right now." And I think that would be something I'd like to see us do as well in Bella Vista.